Okay, so we had the first part one I said about XNHNS, cross network HNS, and I'm really happy Kiba's come back on the Sky Include channel to answer some of my not so technical questions. And it's, I would say, a little bit more technical discussion. So maybe if you're a developer interested in this, this might be more helpful to you. If you're not a technical person, maybe like me, I'm like half, maybe look like half tech, it still be something to just try to absorb all this information. So we share about it, and XDAI is one of the first use cases or blockchains he's chosen to build this bridge to, and some of the thought process. And I just want to share the journey with you as I learn as he's developing this. And I think it's really history in the making, and I really like to document this. So let's turn on into this interview with Kiba about XNHNS and some of the questions I had. Okay, so we have Kiba back, and we're following up with this, the XNHNS, and just going to record the process of crossing network Handshake TLDs to then make SLDs or NFTs on other blockchains. And it seems like XDAI is the one that you think is the first one to do. I don't know if you want to explain that a little bit.
Cross network handshake. Yeah, so the cross network handshake will work on any other network. Like it can work on Ethereum, it can work on this XDAI, it can work on Polkadot all at the same time. It's all the same thing. It's just where you, as the TLD owner, want to actually place your domains. And I personally like XDAI because, as I said before, it's kind of like the hipster cafe of Ethereum or whatever. It's just like there's like all these really cool people there. It's kind of out of the way, and there's like only like cool projects there and really interesting people, and a lot of the DAO infrastructure is on XDAI at the moment. And so yeah, I generally like it. And so that's because of the low fees as well. So you can do like all this cool experimental stuff on there. So obviously like with Handshake, we spent only some, we got like our domains for free, but some of our domains we got for like whatever, $2, $5. So it doesn't really make sense to spend $100 on mainnet Ethereum just to bring the domain over, and then to like do anything on the domain, it costs multiples over what you actually paid for the domain. So XDAI, the gas prices are whatever, like 100,000 times cheaper than Ethereum. It costs you like a fraction of a penny in order to do something versus $100.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's the main thinking on it.
Okay. So, but I mean, I guess the one thing about Ethereum is OpenSea, Mintable, all these NFT marketplaces are Ethereum. So we're stuck on those, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we can't list, if we use XDAI or these others, we wouldn't obviously be able to list or mint on these marketplaces, or I guess you have to choose. What was that?
Sorry. Yeah, so like OpenSea, you can list on them. Like OpenSea has an integration with Matic, which is like XDAI. It's just like a different one. And so yeah, you can list assets on this other side chain called Matic, and then they'll show up on the OpenSea thing. And so yeah, you can also put your stuff to Matic if you wanted to. I originally was gonna like port to Matic, but then they I don't know, their docs were just like way more complicated than XDAI, I felt like. So I just decided to go with XDAI for now. But yeah, as I said, they will work on all the networks at the same time. So there's wherever you want to be, you can put your domain.
Okay. And then I kind of almost want to back up to understand more. So there's the browser, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, even with .badass, that's on Ethereum. So then I think Zipkin made forgot the name of it, the plugin, but we'd have to have resolvers for these new blockchains to be able to open these on XDAI or open these on Ethereum, or each blockchain would need its own like resolver or setting to open them, I think.
Yeah. So Zipkin created both this plugin for the HSD full node implementation of Handshake, and then as part of that, they also created this improvement proposal, a HIP, just HIP 5, which basically allows you to point to a non-IP address as the actual name server for a domain, which I think is pretty awesome. So that's what they do for .badass. They point to a smart contract as a name server instead of pointing to an IP address like a normal server as a name server. And so that actually like worked out perfect for what I was doing with cross-network handshake, because before I was just doing like this one minor thing that's kind of like what you do for like OIDC for like the name-based login or whatever. It was very similar to that. But with this name server record, it just made like everything just work way better. And now you can actually resolve the names from that cross-network handshake thing. So you would need that plugin, or you could create your own plugin for wherever you wanted to. One benefit, I guess, also a very big disadvantage of XDAI is that it's called proof of authority. So there's no proof of work blockchain like Ethereum. So technically with Handshake, like if you want to be fully decentralized or trustless or whatever, you should be running all the nodes yourself. So with .badass, if you want to actually like, if you want to really resolve .badass, you need to run an Ethereum node. Oh no, there's no way to participate in the network. So they're not really like, there's no way to fully trust the system anyway. So it kind of makes sense to port your domains there, because if you want brand new people to access your domain, there's no additional kind of like trust model. I mean, there is an additional trust model, but yeah, I don't know if this makes sense to you, but it's more of like a decentralization maxi kind of thing. So there's like that one consideration of moving to XDAI and using this handover and using .badass and things like that.
Yeah, handover. Yeah, handover is which is HIP 5, handshake improvement. What was a HIP is handshake improvement proposal?
Handshake improvement proposal. Yeah.
Handover. So HIP 5. Yeah, actually, Sebastian was talking about that. Asking about that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm somewhat middle. I'm not really technical, but I think I'm a little bit more technical than maybe some other people that are curious about this. Still so complex. I mean, really, I told you, like I spent like 4, 5, 6 hours the last couple of days trying to dig into all these different. So let's just stick with XDAI then. Okay, I think then maybe we'll add. Mm-hmm. Maybe we can keep this one focused on XDAI. So then you have the cross-network XNHNS, and then you make a bridge. Is that the right terms? Or you would make a connection to XDAI. Mm-hmm. And I think the big benefit, I think you said, like we would then, if just not have to make new, I don't want to say the wrong term, but a new bridge, we would use this XNHNS bridge, or like path or work that you've done. We would just be able to bring over more TLDs through that same kind of route or like connection, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because like I think with .badass, I know it was pretty expensive with smart contracts and gas fees to make that, and then I think from some clubhouses you said with XNHNS it would be done once, and then we would be able to bring in more TLDs on that same smart contract, if I say it correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So instead of every TLD owner having to deploy all of their own smart contracts, they just send one transaction, technically 2 transactions, and then the TLD will be moved over. So yeah, it's a lot cheaper and less secure in a way than cross-network handshake, but there's also a lot less room to, because like if you mess up one of those contracts, you have to like redeploy, and if you mess up the transactions to set everything up, blah, blah, blah. Whereas cross-network handshake, like everything's kind of already in place for you. You just have to tell them to pick up your TLD.
Okay. I'm going to let Darwin join if he wants. He's in our community. Hey, Darwin, we're just doing a recording now. This is Kiba. He's a very talented developer.
Oh.
Darwin's in Global from Asia community with me and in e-commerce business, and he's curious about NFTs and crypto and everything. Hey, Darwin. Okay, so back to XDAI. So then once you have this bridge or this connection, you would then be able, what we could do anything in that system to create, instead of somebody using the address .tld, right? SLD.tld, instead of like that long wallet address on that XDAI.
Yeah, you could do that. That would obviously save one thing. You'd have to like know to look for it, I guess you would say. Like it's not where it's like not an inherent property to domain names that they'll give you the wallet address. So you'd have to know that it was hosted on cross network handshake or
Okay. Okay. So what's the use case? What's some use cases that people could do with it? I guess maybe you would. Can you give us some suggestions what I would do when I brought over to XDI the domain, the TLD?
Yeah. So you can do all of the normal stuff. Like you can add subdomains. You can manage all of your subdomains from XDI now and through cross-network handshake, I guess you could say. You could create your own registrar like .padas did. They just deployed a smart contract to sell subdomains for them. So you can spin that up really easily. Yeah, like I could probably spin that up for you in like whatever, a couple of hours. And then you just be like, yeah, automatically selling subdomains. You don't need Namebase. You don't need anything. You're just getting crypto straight to your. And what other things can you do? I'm building an app for like DAOs. It's kind of like a social network, I guess you could say. I think that's kind of like where it's going towards. It's like a social network for DAOs using domain names. So that's something that I'm building. So that'll be some use case for your TLD.
Okay.
You can do like, yeah, all the things that you listed about, like putting up on OpenSea or whatever and selling your TLD that way potentially. I'm also making like a escrow contract, but actually like something just got launched that I should probably integrate that kind of solves a lot of the stuff that I was dealing with. But yeah, basically like an escrow contract, so you can like sell the NFT on Ethereum and then also receive and also sell the domain on Handshake at the same time. So you kind of be selling like the whole bundled package of the Handshake TLD and the NFTLD and whatever stuff other stuff you have on, set up on Ethereum for that TLD all at once if you wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah, there's like a ton of stuff. There's like infinitely more things to do.
Yeah.
Onto Ethereum or just like onto any other blockchain versus Handshake. Like Handshake is very purpose-built and specific and whatever, like lame, if you want to say, but obviously it's not. And once you're onto like a smart contract platform, the amount of things that you can do, just by the fact that you have smart contracts is like 100,000 times more that you can do on Handshake. And then the applications that are already built on those platforms that you can integrate into, yeah, that's like another 100,000 times more things that you can do over there versus on Handshake. Obviously, it's like better if you have those things on Handshake, but it's just like an experiment. Yeah.
Okay.
You can't do SLDs on Handshake anyway. So,
not sure if you're ready for this question or not, but what's the business model like? Is it like how does XNHNS make money, or how does it work? I mean, for people to do it, or
yeah. So my plan is to make the actual service to bridge across blockchains totally free. It's like just an infrastructure thing. I want to just like work and let people be like a way for people to start using their domains, TLD, and moving it over to XI or over to Ethereum. That will be free. And then what I have set up is like a bunch of different registrar types. So right now I have one registrar, right? It's like the V1 that I would be deploying like end of this week, I guess now. It's just like it just requires like a really tiny deposit, like 0.1 ETH to, I guess it's not a tiny deposit anymore, but like when I started making this like 2 months ago, that was a tiny deposit. Anyway, and so you're not technically paying, you're just like putting up a deposit. And then there's like slashing. If you like try to do funky stuff with your domain, then that deposit will get slashed. You'll lose it. It just keep people on. And that's probably going to be the business model, but actually I don't want cross-network handshake to be anything. Eventually I want to like distribute that registrar role. So kind of like DAOify cross-network handshake, and the DAO would only,
it's okay.
Yeah, so like the DAO would only have the ability to like add different registrars, but ideally we're partnering with other organizations for those registrars. So someone else is writing the actual smart contracts and building up the functionality or whatever, and we're just approving those individual registrars. And probably those registrars would have some kind of business model within that smart contract, but that's separate from the cross-network handshake system. I mean, it's like kind of part of it. It's kind of like the portal or the door, but it doesn't affect the core functionality. And that profit probably wouldn't be going to the actual cross-network handshake DAO itself, I don't think. Yeah. I haven't figured it out. I don't know. But there's definitely ways to monetize it. In my opinion, the actual like core functionality of the bridge shouldn't be monetized because that's just like a basic utility. That should just be free to everyone. And then, yeah, from there, because it's a useful thing, you can make a lot of money with it.
Yeah. It made me remember your article where you're talking about you just mentioned slashing. So of course, if somebody like the .badass is stuck in Ethereum now, right? Like nobody can take it back. But with XNHNS, it seems like it's possible for me to change to another blockchain or bring it back to Handshake. And
yeah.
And then I remember people can do, if people want to do more, I guess, of course, I would potentially break something, especially if there's SLDs there or other contracts there. So you mentioned like if there was DeFi or staking of these TLDs or what's it called, where fractionalization or something, or people doing more complex things that people could lock in funds, or it'll be more locked. I don't know if you want to expand on that more, or
yeah. So none of those things break cross-network handshake. My internet's kind of bad. Maybe I should switch to hotspot. But none of those things like setting up an SLD or like fractionalizing your NFTLD or whatever, that doesn't break cross-network handshake. Like once you have, so let me go back to like the anchoring thing, and then that will explain, hopefully. Let me just switch my internet. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. It seems better now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just moved to my hotspot. Okay, my internet was bad. So like how I call it anchoring. I guess you could call it staking. Yeah, I guess you could go like cross-network handshake. As I said, like you could put that deposit, which at the moment is like 0.1 ETH, and basically that deposit it tells everyone that if this person names server for your domain to the smart contract, right? So now if anyone tries to access your domain, it will look at the smart contract to get the records. So that makes that smart contract like your name server. So basically what that staking does is if they point their domain to any other name server that's not that smart contract that has the deposit, then they'll get slashed, because now like they've broken that link between the two systems. So now the smart contracts on Ethereum know that the domain isn't actually pointing to them. So any SLDs that were bought on that TLD are no longer valid. If someone owns that NFTLD, like if you sold it, theoretically, like you can own the domain and sell the NFT on Ethereum to someone, and that might be like a valid business transaction for whatever reason. And that NFT holder would now have like a totally useless NFT because the domain's no longer on that blockchain. They might have moved it to another blockchain. So basically what that deposit does is keeps that domain anchored to that blockchain. So everyone on that blockchain knows that this person has put up like some amount of capital to have their domain there, and they have like some skin in the game or some stake. Okay. And so that stake gets slashed anytime they move that name server record away from whatever blockchain that they've been to. Yeah. And then someone made the brilliant suggestion of like having a time lock. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So that's kind of when I started on V2, is like not just having token deposits, but also having like time lock deposits and some other stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so how that plays into the whole like DeFi stuff or fractionalization is basically, if you want to do some like high value transactions with your TLD. So let's say like stake it into some DeFi thing for like NFTs, and then they'll like give you something, and then you do something with that thing, and you're just like making a bunch of money. If people really want to trust that NFT and that it's like actually worth something and worth the amount of money that you're like generating with that NFT, or you're trying to get from that NFT, then you should, as a NFT owner, actually be putting up more stake into your NFT. So instead of just the minimum 0.1 ETH, you should actually be putting up whatever, 10 ETH. And now everyone knows like, okay, like they're probably not going to mess up. Like they're not going to whatever rug pull me and like move the domain, like the Handshake domain, away from this NFTLD while they've taken out a loan against their NFT, let's say. And so now the person that's actually the counterparty to that transaction can trust that the NFT will still be there and still be valid once you pay back your loan. And if they don't pay back their loan, they have that 10 ETH that's in the deposit registrar. So they can say like, cool, I like don't care about your NFT at all, but there is this 10 ETH that's backing it. And so if you default on your loan, I can always just take that 10 ETH because they can't take the Handshake TLD because that's on Handshake blockchain, but they can take what stakes the domain on that blockchain.
Got it.
So yeah, that's kind of the thinking behind it.
Okay.
And yeah, none of that stuff messes with cross-network handshake at all. Like cross-network handshake is really just the bridge. And I think how like set up the registrars kind of solidifies that, where yeah, all we're trying to do is just get the domains over, and we don't really care about like how they get over or whatever, like where they come from or anything. Obviously they're coming from handshake, but we could theoretically have them, like the RDAO people asked if like, they already have their domains bridged over to Ethereum in a way. And so they're like, oh, can we somehow take our domains that are already bridged and put them into cross-network handshake? And I was like, yeah, that's possible actually with like a specific type of registrar. So it's really a flexible system. I try to make it as flexible as possible for the domain owners so that they can kind of do whatever they want with it. So once you've bridged your domain, you just have this NFT, and like as long as you don't change the records on Handshake and they continue pointing to that blockchain, that NFT is always valid, and you can just like do whatever NFT stuff you want to do with it.
Great.
Or whatever domain stuff you want to do with it too. Yeah, like add subdomains, do blah blah blah. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's really exciting. Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate you always answering these questions. You know, I guess I think you would, before recording, you were saying maybe, I don't know what time frame and steps, or, you know, of course people are interested to know when and how they could take part. I don't know if you want to answer that today or.
Yeah, so I've been waiting, like the only piece that's missing is this Chainlink Oracle, which is actually what's bridging Handshake and whatever blockchain that we're going to. So that's what's actually the smart contracts on XDAI, let's say, which then someone like sends a request to bridge their TLD, and then basically like we go to the Chainlink node and we say like, hey, this TLD is trying to come over to our blockchain. Can you just like check that the records are set up properly? And if the records are set up properly, the Chainlink's like, yeah, like it's good to go, and then we mint that NFT to like use it. So Chainlink oracles are kind of like how everything actually works. And I've written the smart contract to make that integration happen, but not a smart contract, but whatever API code. But I need to actually run the Handshake, the Chainlink node and a Handshake node, and maybe some other stuff to make that like a fully like built out process. And I just haven't been able to hire someone here. I haven't found anyone. Partially because they only have crypto, so I can only pay people crypto, and that's like a pretty small market. And also like finding devs in crypto is already hard. So yeah, I'm kind of just like on that front maybe, but I've been asking around.
Okay.
But then what I realized the other day when I was talking to RDAO people is like, actually I can just not use the Chainlink oracles, which is terrible. It's actually a really bad idea because it's super insecure. But for like testing purposes, if we really wanted to, like if we're just whatever the giggles, let's try this out. I can set it up where basically I'm the oracle, and so you would send me a message. You would just text me on Twitter and be like, hey, Kiba, I need to get like whatever Flamingo Handshake on XDAI. And then I'd be like, okay, let me just like go in and like type this thing in and get Michael's address. And then, yeah, so I would be the oracle in that sense, which is very inefficient and time consuming and not secure at all. But it is a way to just try this out and like see if it works. And that would at least like get people using it. And I know the interface is terrible, the app that I have. So that would at least like give me the motivation to make the app better, because using Etherscan is like super easy, but actually making the app seems so much harder. So that would be good motivation.
Okay. Well, it's really exciting, man. I'm really, man, I feel like this is going to be really big for the ecosystem. It's great. It's great to have this on the record, and let me know how else I can support. And I'm excited to use it myself and help as best I can. So thanks again, Kiba, as always.
Yeah, thank you. Always happy to answer questions. So.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Kiba, again for coming on Sky Include channel and giving us your technical input for everyone. So if you are watching this and interested and excited as I am, I'm trying to really help bridge more blockchains with Handshake. I think that's a huge way to make huge improvements in the network and the clock blockchain and the community, as well as help other blockchains with their naming solutions, their naming system. And I think that's really what Handshake is about. It's about a TLD, not a SLD. So that you could bridge it to another blockchain and create SLDs on these blockchains. Imagine that, right? We're already talking to some other blockchains and preparing to talk to more. If you're interested in this, let us know, and we'd love to have the developers in the community help you with bridging Handshake TLDs to your network. Thank you.